I didn't mean to say anything tonight. It's not important, not some moment. I was sitting here with you, and the thought came back again. The same one that's been there for a while now, quiet, patient. I guess I'm just tired of pretending I don't feel it. This isn't a big declaration. I'm not trying to impress you or change anything. I don't even know if I'll say this right. I've been holding it in because it feels fragile. Like if I say it too loudly, it might crack. But when you're next to me like this, when you look at me without trying to, I feel something settle. And I've realized I don't want to share you with anyone, not in a possessive way, not in some dramatic, sweeping kind of way. It's quieter than that. It's just this steady pull in my chest that says, you're mine. Not because I own you, God no, but because somewhere along the way, you chose me, and I chose you, and that choice feels sacred. I've tried to act casual about it, tried to be easy, relaxed, like I don't think about forever, but I do. I think about it when you're not looking. I think about it in the small spaces between our conversations. I think about how natural it feels to reach for you, like my hand already knows the shape of yours. It's strange. I've lived a long time being careful, keeping parts of myself folded away, but with you, something in me just rests. And when I imagine you walking away or giving that softness to someone else, it doesn't make me angry. It just makes everything feel slightly wrong, like a room that's been rearranged and nothing sits where it should. I don't want to divide this. I don't want to dilute it. What we have, it feels whole, complete in its own quiet way. And I don't need grand promises or loud vows. I just know that when I look at you, there isn't space in me for anyone else. You're mine, not because I'm claiming you, but because my heart already did, long before I had the courage to admit it. And maybe that sounds simple. Maybe it is. I don't see an ending when I look at you. I only see this steady unfolding thing between us, and two, keep thinking about how easy it feels when you're here. I don't mean like easy in some big, obvious way. I mean the small, quiet kind of easy that slips in between breaths and folds into the spaces you don't notice. It's not that I'm relaxed all the time, or that life stops pressing in, but somehow, with you, it's lighter. Like there's a rhythm I can follow without trying, and I find myself slowing down without realizing it. My chest settles a little, my hands forget to fidget, my thoughts, they don't scatter as much. It's strange to notice it. I mean, I've been through days that felt like long stretches of noise, and I've had moments that felt sharp and hollow, and I thought I knew what calm was. But this is different. It's not quiet because it's empty. It's quiet because it makes sense somehow. Because it's just you, and not because you're doing anything exactly. Not because you've arranged it or made it happen. It's just the way you are. The way being near you bends the edges off everything else without even trying. Sometimes I catch myself just watching you, not really for anything, not expecting anything. And I think, God, it's easy. It's so easy. And easy isn't usually a word I use for these kinds of feelings. I expect weight. I expect friction. I expect a little panic somewhere underneath. But not here, not now, not with you. And I wonder if you notice it too, or if it's only me, this quiet settling in my chest. I remember the first time I realized it, or maybe the first time I let myself notice. I was sitting somewhere, maybe your couch, maybe a corner of the kitchen. I can't remember the room exactly, but I remember the sound of you laughing, that little way your voice folds at the edges of words. And I thought, maybe just for a second, maybe for a few breaths, I could stay here. I could stay like this. And that was it. That was the moment. Not dramatic, not loud, not something I shouted to the world. Just that tiny, imperceptible click in my chest where the rest of everything fell away, or at least softened, and it comes back in waves. Not all at once, not in a perfect line, just glimpses. Like when you reach for something across the table and I notice how your fingers brush the edge, or when you tilt your head while you talk and I see the curve of your neck in the soft light. I don't even have to be thinking about it consciously. My mind just drifts there, to the ease, the softness of the moment, the way it feels like nothing is required and nothing is missing at the same time. I think about how it carries me, even when you're not here. I think about the way I remember it in quiet spaces, like a little ember I carry around. And I realize I hold on to it because it feels rare, because I don't often feel something that just fits, that slips in without forcing itself, that lingers without demanding. And I notice that when I'm with you, It's not like I'm trying to control it or hold it in my hands. It's not fragile in the usual sense. It's fragile in the way that sunlight on a window pane is fragile. But you don't worry it's going to disappear. You just let it be. And I want to be like that too. I want to let it be, not wrestle with it, not name it too loudly, not press it into shapes. And yet sometimes I can't help thinking about it in words. And the words, they always feel clumsy. I try to pin it down, to explain it, to make sense of it for myself, and it slips through my fingers. Easy doesn't have an outline. Easy doesn't have a structure. It doesn't answer questions. It just is. And the more I try to explain it, the more I realize I don't want to explain it. I just want to be here, noticing it, breathing it in, letting it brush against the edges of my awareness without naming it too much. It's in the quiet moments too. Not just when we're talking, not just when we're laughing, not just when we're doing something together in the usual sense. It's in the spaces between, the soft pause before you speak, the stretch of silence that isn't awkward, the way your presence fills a room without asking for anything. I feel it then. It's easier to notice then. And I catch myself thinking, maybe this is what I've been missing all along. Not someone to impress, not someone to fight with, not someone to compete for or hide from. Just someone who makes it feel easy, someone who makes the room, the world, the very air feel like it belongs where it should. And maybe it's selfish, maybe it's naive, maybe it's too simple to say easy, when there's so much more underneath. But that's what it feels like. Not like I can explain it in a tidy sentence. Not like I can write it down and expect it to carry the same weight. But it's there, always there, lurking in the corners of my awareness when I think I'm thinking about other things. A small, insistent presence that nudges me back to you, back to how light it feels when you're near. Sometimes I trace it in memory. I think about the first morning I woke up and you were beside me, or the first evening we didn't say anything at all and the silence was comfortable. I think about how my body seemed to recognize that nothing had to be proven, how my mind could stop running for a moment. And I remember the relief, the quiet shock of it. I think about it now and I can feel it again. Not the whole feeling, never the whole feeling, but a fragment, a shimmer. And that's enough sometimes. That's enough to make me pause. That's enough to make me want to lean just a little closer, to linger just a little longer, even when it doesn't make sense, to linger. And I don't know if it will always be like this. I don't know if easy will ever stop being easy. I don't know if I'll ever be able to articulate why it feels that way, why my chest unclenches in your presence, why my thoughts go soft in the sound of your voice. I don't know if you notice it or if it matters, but I do know that I keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about how natural it feels, how unforced, how quietly steady. I keep thinking about how it makes me want to stay here, just with you, without demanding or asking, without naming or explaining. And maybe that's what I mean by easy. Not that it's simple, not that it's nothing, but that it doesn't have to be carved out of effort, that it can just exist, that I can just exist with it. With you, that even when my mind wanders, or the world presses in, or my chest tightens for some other reason, it's always there. A small anchor, a soft rhythm, a quiet presence that keeps returning, that keeps nudging me back. And so I keep thinking about it. I keep noticing it over and over in the same ways, in new ways, in ways I can't describe, in ways I can barely hold on to. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it's not about holding. Maybe it's about breathing, feeling, being aware. Letting it brush past me, let it linger on my skin, on my thoughts, on the quiet pulse of the room when you're here, when you're just here. I keep thinking about it, and I think, I want to tell you, but I don't know how. Not in words that would do it justice, not in sentences that could carry it without breaking it into pieces. So I just sit here, or I just lean close, or I just breathe, and I let the thought trail behind me like a shadow I can't quite catch. And it's enough, almost enough. And I wonder if it always will be not sure when I started feeling this, but it's there. It's been there quietly, like a whisper you almost don't notice at first, and then you realize it's been shaping the edges of your days without asking permission. I don't know if it began with something I saw in you, or something I felt in myself when you were near. Maybe it was the way you smiled without thinking, or the way your voice fills a room without trying. Maybe it was just noticing that I wanted to stay close, stay quiet, stay alive in the same air you were breathing. And somehow that wanting, it didn't fade, it didn't even waver. It just grew or settled or stayed, however you want to name it. I think about it often in small moments when I'm not paying attention, moments when I almost forget to be present, And then it catches me again, that quiet tug. It's not loud. It doesn't demand. It just is. And I catch myself returning to it again and again, like tracing the same line in the sand, over and over, seeing how it feels under my fingers each time. And it always feels the same and always feels new. Sometimes I try to imagine a day when it wasn't there. I can't. I can't even picture it. Not because I'm stubborn, not because I'm exaggerating, but because it's become part of the air I breathe when I think of you. Not the whole air, not the obvious air, but the subtle, almost invisible kind. The one that slips into your lungs without notice, the one that touches the edges of your skin. That's how it is with this feeling. It slips in, and you realize it's always been there, just quietly, quietly shaping the way you notice things, the way you notice you, the way you notice yourself noticing. I don't even know if I can name it accurately. Love, maybe. Desire, maybe. Need, maybe. All of them, none of them. It's softer than any of those words, or maybe sharper, depending on the moment. It's in the way I want to sit near you for longer than makes sense. It's in the way I remember the shape of your hand even when it's not holding mine. It's in the way I sometimes stop myself mid-thought because I realize I've been thinking of you for the past 5 minutes without noticing, and I don't try to stop it. I don't try to, chase it. I just let it be, like a shadow moving slowly across the floor. There are times when I think I might. I've always felt it even if I didn't know it. Tiny, almost invisible flickers that I dismissed, small signals that I didn't yet have words for. A pause that lingered too long, a smile that held a question I wasn't ready to ask, a silence that didn't feel empty. And now, looking back, I can see the shape of it in those moments, the way it hovered, just beyond my noticing, waiting for me to catch it. And I wonder if it was always waiting for me, or if I was just finally noticing it. Maybe that's the thing about these feelings. They exist in some way, somewhere, long before we admit it to ourselves. I like the way it makes me feel, though I don't always recognize it at the time. Safe, maybe, or less fragile than usual, or maybe just familiar in a way that isn't boring. Familiar without being predictable, comfortable without being stagnant. It's a strange space to occupy, one that feels like it's only meant for two people, even if we don't say it out loud. It's a quiet intimacy, the kind that doesn't require words, the kind that can stretch across a room without needing to touch, the kind that lingers even when we're apart. Sometimes I imagine what it would be like if I tried to trace the beginning, if I could pin it down to a date, a place, a word, a glance. And I can't. I think about 1,000 possibilities, and none of them feel quite right, because it wasn't a single moment. It wasn't a sudden lightning strike or a dramatic unveiling. It just arrived like a tide that slowly shifts the sand, reshaping the contours of your mind and heart without you realizing it, until you step back and notice the change. And when I notice it, I feel a little like I'm holding something fragile, something that might slip if I try to define it too clearly. So I don't. I just keep noticing it quietly as it drifts in and out of my awareness. I think about the way it lives in my chest when you're nearby. Not a burning fire, not a jagged edge, just a steady warmth, a constant hum that I barely notice until I try to speak, until I try to put it into words, and then I realize there aren't words enough. And that's okay, because feeling it is enough. Feeling it is what matters. Feeling it is what carries me through the days when I don't see you, the nights when I can only imagine you, the quiet hours when I feel a little too much and a little too little all at once. And I keep coming back to this, not sure when I started feeling it, not sure how long it's been shaping me, not sure what it means or where it will go, only that it's there always. It lingers at the edges of my thoughts, at the edges of my body, in the spaces between my words. It nudges me when I least expect it, reminds me when I've forgotten, softens when I feel sharp, stretches when I feel closed. And I like it. I like it because it's yours, in a way that doesn't belong to anyone else, in a way that isn't about owning or claiming, but simply noticing, simply being aware, simply being. I don't know if I ever realized it until just now, or if I've been realizing it all along without the courage to name it, without the patience to let it surface. It's the kind of thing you can't force. You can't schedule, you can't map, you can't explain, not really. And the more I think I should, the more I realize that thinking too much would ruin it. Because part of what makes it work, what makes it possible, is that it exists quietly, without expectation, without structure, without demand. It's just there, a constant, small presence that follows me through the edges of my days, through the quiet corners of my rooms, through the little spaces in between the noise of my own mind. And so I keep noticing it when I see you smile, noticing it when you speak without looking, Noticing it when I remember a touch that passed too quickly. Noticing it when the world seems too loud and suddenly softens because I'm thinking of you. And I don't try to pin it down. I don't try to understand it fully. I just let it be, let it drift, let it breathe, let it live in the space we share, in the quiet space between us, in the corners of my chest where it has been growing without me realizing it, without me asking it to, without me claiming it. Sometimes I just want to hold it close and not say anything, not because I don't have words or because I'm afraid or because I'm trying to hide something. I think I just like the feeling of it being there, warm and small and quiet, tucked between us where it doesn't have to be noticed or explained. It's soft, almost fragile, like a secret that floats in the air and only I can feel it, only I can trace it with the weight of my hands or the shape of my chest. And it's strange how something so quiet can feel so alive that it almost hums beneath the surface, almost hums in a way that I can feel it in the back of my mind long after you've left the room. I think about the way it slips in when we're sitting together, when there's nothing pressing to do, when the world has slowed down just enough that I notice the curves of your shoulders, the way your hair falls across your face, the tilt of your head when you're thinking or even when you're not thinking. I notice the way you breathe, the way your chest rises and falls in a rhythm that isn't mine but feels like it belongs with me for this moment. And I think I could just sit here like this forever. I could just let it be unspoken, unfurled, unclaimed. I could let it rest between us like a quiet weight that presses softly and nothing else would need to happen. Sometimes I imagine holding it close in the literal sense, pressing my hand to my chest where it lives, or wrapping an arm around you so the space between us shrinks just enough that it can breathe with us both. And yet, I don't want to mark it, or shape it, or define it. I don't want to turn it into a sentence, a promise, a label. I want it to remain soft and loose, like a whisper that drifts in the corners of a room, like the faint glow of early morning light across the floor, like a thought that slips away if you try to pin it down too tightly. I want to hold it close, but I don't want to trap it. I want it to exist just as it is, between us, alongside us, part of the quiet pulse of being here together. I notice it in moments that seem meaningless to anyone else. When you reach for something across the table, or when you bend down to tie your shoes, or when you laugh at something small and insignificant, I feel it rise. I feel it curl and expand and settle in a way that is impossible to describe. And I want to tell you sometimes, but then I realize that saying, gee, anything might disturb it, might make it bigger, might make it something it's not meant to be. So I don't say anything. I just sit with it like a weight that isn't heavy, like a presence that doesn't demand. I just notice it over and over until it becomes almost part of the air we breathe. It's in the quiet that I feel it most, not the quiet that is empty, not the quiet that is awkward, not the quiet that waits for someone to fill it. The quiet that belongs, that stretches naturally, that lets the room settle without asking for attention. And in that quiet, I find it easy to hold it close. I find it easy to breathe with it, to let it hum softly in my chest, to let it drift across the space between us without needing to land anywhere, without needing to be named or grasped. It is enough, almost, always almost, never fully contained, never fully gone, never fully mine. Sometimes I think about the first time I realized I wanted it like this, like a soft pulse, like something I could hold without shaping, like a quiet insistence that I didn't have to resist. I can't remember the exact moment, but I remember the feeling of recognition, of knowing that it had been there all along, quietly nesting in my chest, quietly settling into the spaces I hadn't allowed myself to notice before. And I didn't try to act on it. I didn't try to claim it. I just